Good morning and welcome, everyone. Good to see you all this morning. It's a full weekend in Bellingham. Yes, a lot happening right now here in Bellingham and actually all over in the world right now. So we take all of that and we bring this in this morning in our celebration and in our prayers. So my name is Dyann Castro-Wehr and I'm the platform assistant today. And Frank, if you want to come up and tell a little bit about the talk today.
Well, it's a busy time, and it is Father's Day, and also there's been a lot of graduations going on. So I wondered, I've never been asked to give a graduation speech, so I assigned it to myself. And, what would it be like to say, imagine that we are in some ways graduating, which means taking the next step, taking another step. So anyhow, today you get Frank's rendition of a graduation talk ceremony. Yeah, being in the spirit of June, right?
Okay. And we're not outside in the sun and waiting for lots of people to get their diplomas, I promise you. All right. Our ministry today is Marcia and Kathy. So grateful to have you. And our special guest, J.P. Falcone, is here. Now, as we prepare for a time of reflection and meditation, we hold the words of this song quietly in our hearts.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit within, and all we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and all I am and all I do is a blessing to the world, is a blessing to the world.
As we settle in for a time of brief reflection, let's pause first to offer a moment of prayer. I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable, or soften your gaze. Taking a calming breath, we call to mind anyone who is on your heart right now for whom you'd like to offer up a prayer. We take a moment to see them in the light of their wholeness. We see this. We hold this vision for and with them, knowing that divine light and love is available, present and active in their life. Taking another deep cleansing breath, we are opening to a time of giving yourself your own healing attention. Your own attention. A time for you to be just with you. Find a comfortable rhythm of breath that is calming. Allow any tension in your body to soften. If you'd like, you can add these words to the circle of your breath. I am here. I am here. If any thoughts come, simply let them flow out of your breath, with your breath. You can acknowledge what you notice or what distracts, with no need to attach or judge. You can simply say, I see you. I am here. I am here. You are opening to you. Each moment of returning to your breath is a moment of healing. You bringing your healing to you, being with you. What a beautiful exploration together. You can return to this breathing cycle. You can return to yourself when you need to find balance, when you're feeling overwhelmed. When your heart is full or uncertain. You can return to the healing power of being with yourself. So I invite you to gently return to being back with each other here, back in this room. And we'll continue in this sweet space while listening to our next song.
There were bells on the hill, but I never heard them ringing. No, I never heard them at all. was you. There were birds in the sky, but I never saw them winging. No, I never saw them at all till there was you. Then there was music and wonderful roses. They tell me of sweet, fragrant meadows of dawn and dew. There was love all around, but I never heard it singing. No, I never heard it at all till there was you. Then there was music and wonderful roses. They tell me of sweet, fragrant meadows of dawn and dew. There was love all around, but I never heard it singing. No, I never heard it at all till there was you. Till there was you.
If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. Hello, graduates. So, when I was asked to give this graduation commencement speech, somebody asked me, it was pretty easy to stop and sketch out about all the things I wanted to share with you as we commence, which means to take a step forward into the next stage of our life. So I sat down and I listed 8 things I wanted to tell you. The commencement committee told me I had 20 minutes. I said, so okay, how about 6? All right, how about 4? So I practiced 4 and I realized, no, how about 2? This may come down to 1. I'm looking at the clock. So I thought, in this commencement address, if I could say anything that would be supportive of all of us as we take the next step of our journey in this commencement for this graduation, what might it be? And what was so fortuitous was that it's also Father's Day. They call that a clue. Use that. There's something about this idea of, and I want to, because we're here at Unity, talk a little bit about father as metaphor. And by the way, happy Father's Day for the actual fathers in the room and those who may be fathers sometime in the near future. All of us. And people with father energy. And for all the fathers out there that we remember fondly or even not fondly, blessings on all of them. Blessings on the fathers and our forefathers and our ancestors, all of them. But I want to speak a little bit about this notion of father that our way shower, the Rabbi Jesus, taught us, who had a sense of his relationship with Father that he called Father, and he also called Abba, sort of a very dear, near sense of Father. But I want to suggest that for him, This was a potent metaphor. And I try to find a word for metaphor that was more than, sort of a sense of metaphorical and like lyrical or, interesting, but really, really poignant. Like such a powerful metaphor that it felt like it was real. And so Jesus had this sense of his time and his place. Consider his culture, consider his place in the Middle East, in the Judaism of the time, in the being part of the Roman Empire of the time, the paternalistic culture that he lived in. And he saw this sense of in his culture, this deep relationship he had with the divine, this felt sense of this closeness, this tangible oneness. And he realized that in this culture, an eldest son inherits from the father. Other sons do too, but the eldest son inherits. In other words, when the one father passes on to the child, it passes on to the son in this culture. And the son in very much just picks up all the attributes and all the prosperity and all the history and all the essential elements of the family of the father. And so in many ways, when Jesus talked about the divine, his understanding of the divine, his felt experience, his expression, he talked about it in the sense of father and son. The son, that he constantly talked about the father because he knew and he felt this deep sense that what this divine presence had was also his. So now in a metaphor, and I'm calling it metaphor, it was so potent and so powerful that just in the history, people picked it up not as metaphor only, but as literal. As literal. And through the history, and you can read all the Christianity and the Christianities that evolved and emerged, there was a deep sense of this being a literal thing where there was a father, God was a father, and Jesus was son, and then there was this energy, this relational energy between them they called the Spirit, and they came up with this idea of a Trinity. And if that works for you, use it. If that works for you, use it. I find myself standing in that understanding of what was trying to happen and that feeling, but asking some questions about how they take a metaphor of a felt relationship and expand it into communal relationship. What is my metaphor? What is your metaphor, graduates? Because you can live into someone else's metaphor, and that might work for you, or it might not. So we don't always, and we say this, let's not just say what Jesus said. Let's live into the energy that he demonstrated. Jesus demonstrated this sense of, I have this deep emotional connection to this divine reality, and it's so potent for me, I need a way to talk about it. And he came up with this potency, this very potent metaphor of father and son. But what's yours? What's your metaphor? And to take the metaphor and make it only a reality, a historical reality, fine if it works, but doesn't that maybe put us in a box and say that's the relationship? It's a relationship, but what is yours? What is yours? And we look through the history of the unfolding. Oh, but hasn't that relationship supported people? It has. It's also led to a lot of oppressive responses and reactions, especially as we've reached a point where we've moved out of patriarchal considerations and said, what about a mother-daughter relationship? What would that look like? Mother-son, father-daughter. What about grandfather-child? What about not even familiar in a linear family name? All of those work, by the way. What's yours, graduates? Because what I want to leave, and I'm giving you the conclusion, and I'm going to work our way back into it. Because whatever you find is the most potent metaphor, metaphors take on an energy that this is how we work. This is how we work. The metaphor that we live by brings on a felt sense that becomes our reality. Becomes our reality. So what's your metaphor? I was walking this morning, and I'm asking this question: what's my metaphor? I got a lot of them, and I'm thinking of all these metaphors. But what's my metaphor? On Sunday mornings, I go for a walk. I go by Scudder Pond, and it's out by Whatcom Falls. And I'm sitting here. What's my metaphor? What's my metaphor? And I noticed something on my side, and I look down, and right at my foot, there's this little bird. Looks something like I put it on my diploma here. And over in the bushes, just sticking out, was this other bird. I don't even think they were the same species. And this other bird was all fluffed up with lots of feathers and billowy and standing over there and just like chirp, chirp, chirp. And this little bird at my feet came up, and someone had thrown some oatmeal out there. So the little bird came up, picked up the oatmeal, hop, hop, hop. This big bird over the side, started feeding the big bird. Then he'd hop back, pick up some oatmeal, and run back, and he'd feed the big bird. And then that big bird would go, poof, and throw it out. And the little bird would come back and get another oatmeal, and he'd come back, and he kept feeding the big bird. The big bird sometimes would swallow it, sometimes go, poof. And then the little bird would go over and pick up the oatmeal that the big bird threw out and feed it back to him again. He'd spit it out again, and then the little bird picked it up and ate it himself, and he'd hop. And I'm like going, oh, this is how it works, right? God, I need a metaphor. You want me to explain that metaphor to you, right? If you figure it out, let me know. But it had something to do with the interrelationship, the feeding of one another. What is God like? And by the way, when it comes to parables and a lot of the stories I read in the gospel, I tend to be very careful about, well, the big bird is God, or the little bird is God, and the big bird is you. Can we sit in the energy of what we see without having to go back to our intellect and try to line it up in an outline? Can we just sit in the energy of the story? And it had something to do with this relationship between feeding each other. And the one with the courage, this is now, if Jim was here, he could probably tell me all the species and exactly what the play was, and whether that was a courtship ritual or some kind of parasitic relationship from one bird that sits in the other. Yeah, I looked it all up. But let's forget the intellectual understanding of what was going on with these birds. Can we just look at it as the metaphor for how there's this interplay of caring for one another? And in this particular case, what was it about the little bird with the courage? I mean, he was right at my feet. I'm like, you are really, that's pretty good for a little bird. So come right to my feet. This is the birds, by the way. Some people came in and said, why is there dinosaurs on your diploma? They're birds. And it's hard to see back there. There was this piece of me that sort of bristled many years ago about this notion of the divine always being, not only Father, Son, but somehow the one that took care of me. Okay, I'll buy that. There's something about the beingness of a human being and the comfort of knowing that there's a divine presence, a divine power, a presence. There's a oneness that cares, and if you want to use this language, loves and cares for me and you. And that's a fine metaphor. Please stay with that, hold that. But it's one metaphor. What if we switch it around totally? You see, that little bird, it's like God who takes care of that bird that was scared over there. What if it's the other way around? What if the divine is the big bird that encourages the little one to go out and do what it needs to do? Which bird was in this metaphor, which bird is the divine and which bird is me? And which bird is me? Which one is which? All of it. We want to sit in the energy of these metaphors and let them unfold to see what else they might bring to us. And the way we show up, the way we live our lives as far as our spiritual lives and the fullness of who we are, is totally dependent on what metaphors we're holding about the relationship, the divine relationship, and who we are as embodied spiritual beings. Which way does it go? There's a beautiful poem I want to read you. It's by Hafiz. Let me tell you, Hafiz was a medieval times living in what's now he called Persia, what's now Iran. And he was Muslim. And in Islam at the time, and not a huge expert at Islam, but what I do understand is the sense of God is transcendent, and the relationship is one of respect and worship to this divine. But there seems to be, in the general understanding, kind of a chasm between the transcendent, all-powerful, mighty one and the humanity that seems to be somewhat, separate. You might say that's true in some of the Christianities as well. But there's always the mystics. There's always the ones that see it different. There's always the ones that are so in love and enamored with the divine presence that they see through that separateness, and they show the aching for the truth of the oneness, the unified sense of being, the divine being that's not only loves us, but is the love. Not a love, but the very verb itself, the lovingness of the divine is the nature of who we are. And then God becomes not a noun, but a verb. We talk about this is Charles Fillmore. This is Unity 101. This is like Charles Fillmore to the core. What if every time we talked about God, we were talking about a verb? We God things. Life, the 12 powers, love, wisdom. They're not things, they're attributes of God that show up and manifest in our lives. All of it is divine presence. So Hafiz, who's living in this Islamic world, he kind of does this dance. And he talks about his sense of these things in poetry, because if he came out and said it more intellectually, as far as we understand historically, he would have gotten a lot of trouble. He did get in a lot of trouble. It's like, Hafiz, what are you doing? You're making God your beloved? That's a little. You're meeting God in taverns and in bars? But what are you doing? Wait, what did your poetry say? In this poem, he talks about crushed angels. That you, like Jonathan, likes to talk about human beings. There's that humanness of us and that beingness of us. And it's not either or. We're human beings. We're both. And on the human side, sometimes we go, or maybe we go, or there's pain, there's suffering, there's fear. There's what the heck is going on-ness to our human side, and in our being side, all is well. There's no problem. And we're both. Hafiz calls it being a crushed angel. A crushed angel. You have not danced so badly, my dear, trying to hold hands with the beloved one. Trying to hold hands with the beloved one. Think about his metaphor for his relationship with the divine. You have not danced so badly, my dear, trying to hold hands with that beautiful one. You have waltzed with great style, my sweet crushed angel, to have ever neared God's heart at all. Our partner is notoriously difficult to follow. And even all the divine's best musicians, they're not always easy to hear. So what if the music has stopped for a while? So what if the price of admission to the divine is out of reach tonight? So what, my sweetheart, if you lack the ante to gamble for real love? The mind and your body, they're famous for holding the heart ransom. But Hafiz knows the beloved's eternal habits, Hafiz knows the beloved, its eternal habits. Have patience. Have patience. For the beloved will not be able to resist your longing and your charms for long. You have not danced so badly, my dear, trying to kiss that magnificent one. You have actually waltzed with tremendous style, my sweet, oh, my sweet crushed angel. That gives me chill bumps. My sweet crushed angels. You have not danced so badly, my dears, trying to kiss that magnificent one. There's a metaphor. There's a metaphor. For our relationship with the divine breaks the bounds on all sorts of levels of what that connection can be between the divine and us. And Hafiz knows that father-son, while that is a beautiful metaphor, and we know that in the Christianities, the various Christianities very well. But so what about this metaphor? What if our longing for the divine is like the longing for that sacred, beloved dance partner? And that longing for that one that wants to share a magnificent kiss. Yeah, Hafiz got a little trouble in the 13th century in a very strict sort of religious sense. But even us, how much are we willing to explore the fullness of the intimacy, that intimate connection we all have with the divine, the beloved, calling us the sweet ones, the sweet dear ones that connect with that beloved energy, that divine energy, that oneness energy. And even in that oneness, there's an interesting piece from the Gospel of Thomas. I'll quote this. It's from number 77. And what's beautiful about the Gospel of Thomas, which many of you know, we have the ones that are traditional, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that are in what we consider canonical Bible. But a little over 100 years ago, we did find a Gospel of Thomas that was known, and we find excerpts, and people knew about it and knew it existed, but we never found the whole thing. And then during some research in an old junk heap in Egypt, we found these jars in a place called Nag Hammadi, which were buried for 2,000 years, some ancient manuscripts. And lo and behold, we found a whole extant copy of the Gospel of Thomas. And in that one, the voice of Jesus and the way it seems that Jesus expresses the relationship with the divine has yet another flavor. And why not? And why not? It was another community's understanding of the words that Jesus had, and had it in a certain way. And as a master teacher, a way shower, my master teacher, here's a piece that Jesus said. It's in the Gospel of Thomas. I am. Now, by the way, when we hear Jesus say, I am, some people attribute that to, he's talking about himself, his ego consciousness. And what I want to suggest to you is that he's talking from the place of the I am consciousness, which we all know, I think we know from, for example, from Exodus, when Moses was at the burning bush and the voice said, go and set my people free and lead them out of this place in Egypt and lead them into a new place of their freedom. And Moses said to this burning bush, who should I say is telling me to go? And the voice says, tell them I am. I am sent you. I am. The relationship, here's another metaphor. Can we get that personal, where we resonate so fully with the divine presence that we can sit from the place of the I am conscious and speak with authority from that place? Myrtle Fillmore did it. Charles Fillmore does it. And we're all encouraged to do the same, as did Jesus in this talk. I am the light that is over all things. It is I who am the entirety. It is from me that the entirety, the oneness has come, and to me that the entirety goes. From the I am, all is created, and from all the creation returns back again to the I am consciousness and the one. A whole dance of out and in. Split a piece of wood. I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there. So where is God not? In this metaphor of oneness that even Jesus showed in these metaphors. So graduates, I'll leave you with a word and a prayer. Let's do that. The word, and I've shared this word with you many times. Let me say it again because it's a mouthful. It's a notion we call panentheism. I know it's a bunch of Greek, but pan meaning through everything. In and theism means the God. That God not only, everything itself isn't the sum total of the divine, because God exists in the allness of all things, beyond what's physical or what's knowable for us as humans. And yet, at the same time, everything that we know and can sense and can touch and can feel and can idealize and express in the world is an expression of that oneness. Panentheism. Theism says God's out there, we're over here, there's a chasm. Good luck. Constantly trying to reach across the chasm, but it's in some senses is impossible. There's a lot of that going around. Pantheism says everything that you see in the physical world is God, and that's all it is. Panentheism says there is that which is transcendent and unknowable and still unfolding, and everything we have available to us is a manifestation of the one. Panentheism. I heard a great word the other day that says, what if you called it Panchristism? See the Christ in all things. We'll play with that one. I just read that the other day. And so this metaphor, think about as we walk and we're thinking about the divine, and when we say a prayer to God, dear God out there, do you see? And I've said this a million times, please, however we pray, do that. And it is good. It is good. What I'm suggesting is, and for your consideration, graduates, crank it up. Let's crank it up. Let's explore new metaphors for how we understand how we connect and how we pray and how we show up and how we interact with that divine energy. Because you split the wood, I am there. You turn over the stone, I am there. There is no place. Why are we yelling for God out there when it's it, he, she, they, them, it, all of it it's here. And our language makes it difficult sometimes, and sometimes trips us up a bit. But here's the fun of it, and that's why the language may trip us up, but metaphors give us the juice. The metaphors give us the juice. The I am consciousness allows us to stay in that energy where we say the I am, when we say I am, the presence, I am, and I feel, and I know the very presence, the power is here with me, through me, as me, acting with you, through you, as you, and we're all here together in the one. It's all here. And it's also out there. Both. Yeah, I told you my 8 things is reduced down to 1. And here's the question I lead you with, graduates, because I'm out of time. What's your metaphor? What's your metaphor? And as you walk and as you think and as you start praying, when you sit and you go, I'm going to pray. Just do this for yourself. I'm going to pray. And what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you go, I'm going to pray? What words come out? What comes to your mind? What words come out of your mouth? And that will tell you the metaphor you're holding on to. And I want to ask you to play with some more metaphors. Do Hafiz. Wink at God and go, hey, beloved, I'm serious. Wink at God and go, hey, beloved. Smile at God and go, hey, my dear. sit in your chair and open your arms to God and go, my sweet, what's happening, my sweet? Where are we today? Feel into the, or father, son is fine too. Hey, dad. Hey, mom, grandma, great grandma, saints, whoever it is that's alive for you. But do not, please, I'm asking you, don't short circuit whatever that is for you that resonates with the deepest part of your heart when we're trying to see how we feel in relationship with the oneness that is the truth of our nature. Whatever it is. Hafiz said, this is my words, and I don't have a poem in front of me, but it's like, I saw it one night when I was drunk and bawdy in a bar. There you were. Got in trouble for that one. What kind of morals are you teaching? I'm trying to teach metaphors that really represent the kind of feeling I have when I connect with this divine energy. Intoxicated, drunk, beside myself, loopy. The divine's with me and I can't even control myself anymore. These are the images these mystics use. These are the images, these mighty people who have connected and have been courageous and brave enough to go, it could be like this. Metaphors become real for us. You know, we feel them. I try to find a word. What's a metaphor that feels so real that it becomes real instead of a metaphor? I couldn't find it. A real metaphor, I don't know. If you know a word, let me know. But that sense when we get that mystical relationship that just fits in our soul and we go, that's it. There it is. That's the relationship I have. That's the one that's the juice. That's the yumminess. God, that relationship with the divine is yummy. Who says that? It is. You know it is. And you feel warm all over. Okay, graduates. So as you go forward, remember the birds. Remember whatever it is that comes to you as a metaphor when you ask, what do we see? What comes forward? What's the metaphor for me? And if we ever sort of imagine, well, there's a limit to how I can talk about God. Who said? God doesn't say that. The divine welcomes all the possibilities of metaphors, human metaphors, nature metaphors, life metaphors, cosmic metaphors, whatever it is, and multiple ones, find those for yourself. Actually, let's take just one second here. Close your eyes if you'd be so kind. And opening our hearts just for a moment with a breath. Take a breath. And in that space of some quiet, some silence, when you feel that very nature of the divine presence, that's play, that's love, that's the truth of your heart that's asking you to connect and to come home in some new way. What is that for you? There's no right and no wrong. It's just what it is for you. Open your imagination to the potentiality of all the possible metaphors. What is the divine for you? A sunny day, a stormy day, a forest, an ocean, a lover, a friend, a teacher, a parent, a grandparent, a child, a situation, a blessing. Yeah, what is it for you? Hold that for just a moment in the silence. Yeah, in the silence. So a couple, by the way, thank you. JP, he had a concert at Coronado Park last night. Dyann and I were there. And what's really funny, I think I mentioned this to you, but you know, if you've heard JP play out, and you should go check his website with his little band, and it's kind of jazzy and a lot of good Eagles and Beatles and and we were dancing, some fun stuff. And then you played that song you play here, Aichi, how's it go? Isugape. You know it. We all know that song. So JP at the very end plays Isugapi, and everybody's dancing, having fun, and all of a sudden, imagine the entire Corrada Park went, did you notice? And people stopped talking, and everybody went, and closed their eyes. And your friend came and started playing the native flute with it. Oh my gosh. Talk about dropping the floor out of a park, man. That song really's got it, you know? And songs do that. Different songs do different things. Anyhow, what a gift to have our friend JP with us. And thank you for the ministry you do throughout the whole community, you know, through Bellingham. Music is potent that way. I just have 2 announcements. Let me see, June 29th. Oh, not next Sunday, but the following Sunday. Okay, we want to try something we've never done before, to my knowledge, here at Unity of Bellingham. And what I've learned from moving here from California, where, you know, it's mostly warm all the year, we have a few months where it is really nice to be outside, right? We know that, Pacific Northwest. Kind of like now through July and August, and then maybe towards the end of September, it starts getting rainy again. So what if we've been talking about fifth Sundays. We want to have a contemplative service. I think many of you were here last month. We had a contemplative service on the last Friday. So this 29th of June is a fifth Sunday. So we're going to do an alternate contemplative service, pretty close to the same format, but something a little different. And why don't we do it outside? What do you think? And we don't want to make it so that it's difficult for anybody to come. But here's the thing: bring a lawn chair, a hat, or a coat, or whatever you need. And if the weather's terrible, we come inside. But if it's a nice day, like even today, imagine today, you'd probably want a jacket. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's in this field right over here on the west side, you know where the fire pit is. We're going to set it up for anybody who maybe has, who might walking on grass is difficult. We'll have enough space on the driveway that you can put your lawn chair on the driveway. And we can bring some chairs out if we need to, but they're heavy. So if you bring a lawn chair, it'd be all the better. And we'll set up in the yard. We're working it out. Jay Scott's working out how we can record on an outside situation and get the music and the amps and all that. So, you know, we say, let's try it. Let's try it. Are you guys up for an outside service? Yeah? Okay, let's try that. And it'll be a contemplative service. So if it's not really loud and amplified and that doesn't work out, it's okay. It's a contemplative service. And if you've never sat over in there, you get a little bit of car noise. But you know, this place outside around here is happening. And the birds and the noise and the animals and the woods are talking to us. So we'll go join our congregants, our outside congregants, and we'll go to their spot and we'll do an outside service. I figure we only get the chance in like end of June, July, August, and then it gets too uncertain when it comes to the weather in the Pacific Northwest. Okay. So I'll remind everybody again next week, and we'll put it in the bulletin, contemplative outdoor service in 2 weeks. Also, just to put on your calendars, and this should be in the bulletin, but last year, Movers and Shakers put together a fun activity, and we're going to try it again. It's a Saturday night, and it's a dessert night out with a game we call Snoop. And I think many of you have played Snoop before, but it's just a fun game where you throw dice and turn over cards and probably yell and tell everyone to hurry up and cheer, and it just gets really fun. So we're going to have a Snoop. It's July 12th, so it's still a month away. More information. Maybe we'll even do a little Snoop demonstration for those of you who don't know. But it's coming up. Thank you, Movers and Shakers, for putting that together. And we'll have a bunch of card tables and a Saturday Snoop. I mean, it's got to be fun if it's called Snoop, right? So anyhow, Snoop night coming up. Anything else as far as announcements? I think that's it. Everything else is in the bulletin. Okay, thank you.
Please.